Another race against time. Dr. Kev. 5-minute video guitar lesson series because I've only got 4 minutes left on my camera. Let's see if I can get through this one. Hi, my name is Kevin Crutch from drkevguitar.com. I'm a guitar teacher in Paris, France. This is my now very much less than 5-minute video lesson for this, I hope, to give you an idea of who I am as a guitar teacher and how I can help you, and to give you some of the tips and tricks that I give to my students and have been doing so for quite a few years now. Today, in this shorter than 5-minute guitar lesson, I want to talk to you about these. Open chords are little tiny chord diagrams in particular, right? This is where we start when we learn to play the guitar, unless you're a classical guitar player or perhaps some of the jazz players. But for everybody else in the world, when we're playing pop, rock, blues, folk, we learn our first steps on the guitar by learning these little chord shapes. And these little lovely little pictures, these little diagrams, show us where to place our fingers to get a particular chord. So if I want to play an E major chord, I put my fingers in this shape. I put my second finger here, and my third finger here, and my first finger here. So that, as it applies to the guitar, gives me this result. Right? Nice and easy. Follow the dots. Look and see which finger is used where. That's how we all start. And if you're watching this, you may be familiar with this already. I'm assuming that you are. What's really important here is that I don't want you to think of these chord shapes as only fingers. Bye, paper. They're not only fingers, okay? If I play this E major chord, I'm also playing 1, 2, 3 open strings. And those open strings are an integral part of that chord. I can't ignore them. They're not some sort of magical background noise that, the chord isn't just my fingers. The chord itself is the other strings. And that's really important with many of these chords. For example, if I play an A major chord, my fingers look like this on the diagram. And on most of those diagrams, they'll write in little numbers which tell you which dot corresponds to your first finger or your second finger or your third finger. But there's very often more than one way of playing a chord. I can play an A major chord this way, or 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 this way. And you hear I get the same result every time. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. There's more than one way to play every chord. In some cases, some chords are just incredibly difficult to play another way, and that's fine. But I don't want you to think of those little chord diagrams, the little dots that tell you where to place your fingers. I don't want you to think of those chords as fingers. I don't want you to think of those chords as fingering. If I look at an A7 chord, we suddenly see what? A major, A7. I lift one finger up. It's only a 2-fingered chord. I've had students say to me, well, clearly the difference between an A7 chord and an A major chord is that there's one note less because I'm using one finger less. In fact, the exact opposite happens. I've actually added a new note to the chord, and that new note is a G note being played at the open G string. Without that G note, it's not an A7 chord. So I don't want you ever to think of those little pictures as shapes of your fingers, because that's not the case. And when we go into bar chords and we start moving chords around the guitar neck, that becomes vitally important. I want you to see the entire shape of all the notes. I don't see fingers when I look at chord shapes. I see little dots under the strings. Those dots came directly from those diagrams, which are now on the floor over there somewhere. It makes moving to bar chords and movable chord shapes and unlocking the guitar neck so we can play anything we want. It makes that process so much easier if you can stop thinking of those little pictures as where to place your fingers. That's not what they are. They're where the notes for the chord are, and that includes the open strings. Try and see the overall total shape, not just the fingers. If you can do that, when you move to open chords and movable chord shapes, everything gets so much easier. Thanks so much for watching. Kevin Crutch, drkevguitar.com. If you're in Paris, you need a guitar teacher, give me a shout. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.